All right. Hey, everybody. Good afternoon. And we're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Dr. Matthew Arau, and I am an associate professor of music at Lawrence University in Appleton, Wisconsin. I'm also the president, founder, and CEO of Upbeat Global. And our mission is to inspire positivity through leadership and music around the world. For today's webinar, I felt it was really important for us to take a moment to set our intention for the school year. There's never a better time than the present, is there? And with many of us having just started or we're just about to start, this is the time for us to set our intention. So I hope that today I'm able to provide value for you, your life, and your students. And I also hope that we can interact along the way and share ideas, and that we can do the best we can to make this as collaborative as possible. So feel free to jump in, ask questions, write in the chat. And for those of you that are watching the replay, I'm glad that you're joining us, and let's have a lot of fun today. Okay, here we go. So this is titled Reclaim Your Upbeat, Setting Your Intention for the School Year. Just for a moment, just to bring us into this space, let's do one renew, release breath. And as we're doing this breath together, I want us to take a moment to reflect on all that we've been through, all that we've overcome, and all that we've learned. So this one, you're going to breathe in your nose for 4 counts, saying to yourself, renew. And then you're going to exhale out your mouth for 6 counts, saying to yourself, release. So let's try it together. Just relax your shoulders. We'll get into the space together. And in. And release. Kind of shake it out. All right. And as you're reflecting, I think reflection is a really, really important part of being a successful music educator, to look back and to look forward. And so much of today's session is going to be about looking forward. I want to honor everyone here and acknowledge that, yes, we have all experienced uncertainty and a lack of control. And I understand that when we feel a lack of control, it creates stress and anxiety for us and can actually impact us on so many levels, including physiologically, and often even impacts our breathing. But we can take back control. Next, I want to share that I think it's really important for all of us to give ourselves and others grace during this challenging time that we're continuing forth in. Well, let's take a moment to pause. And what did we learn from last year? What are areas that you grew in as an educator? Were they in the musical realm? Were they in the technology realm? Did you learn things about yourself? Did you learn things about your students that you might not have learned before? Feel free to jump in the chat, but I'd love to hear how many of you felt in some ways that you had opportunities to get closer to your students, that in the virtual world, there were opportunities to get to know maybe special things about your students that you might not have before. Or perhaps you became more vulnerable this last year and opened up and shared more with your students as well. I always felt that when the pandemic began at very first, everything was so silent. It felt like a global pause. And I wanted to make sure that in that pause and in that silence, that there was growth. But I also recognized that there was a lot out of our control. As we begin this school year, let's all connect to our sense of purpose and our why. When we have a strong sense of meaning and purpose for what we do on a daily basis, it inspires and motivates ourselves, which is so essential. And sometimes we're going so fast when that school year starts, boom, we're just off to the races, and we're just oftentimes just trying to keep up. Am I right? But that's why in the beginning, it's so important to get in touch with your why. If you have some paper right now, just go ahead and get a notebook out and write down, what's your purpose? What gets you up in the morning to continue to share music, to connect with your students for those early mornings, for those of you that have those zero periods. When I taught in Loveland, Colorado, I remember we'd have zero period sectionals at 6:30 a.m. And when I taught jazz band at the middle schools, we had the jazz band met at 6:30 in the morning. And I remember just being so excited to get to school because of the commitment of my own students. They were waiting and excited to make music. So what's your why? As we look into this school year, and sure, things are definitely not as we had hoped. We'd hoped, to a return to normal. And I know that's not happening, but I recognize that while there's a lot out of our control, if we can focus on what is in our control, we can reclaim our freedom and our Upbeat. And so let's just talk about that. Here's some ideas. So I believe that our attitude, first and foremost, is in our control. We can decide what attitude, we can look within, dig deep. What kind of attitude am I going to bring to the day, right? Every single day is an opportunity to set our intention and to choose our attitude. Our mindset is in our control. We often talk about our students having a growth mindset. And the challenge, of course, is for us as educators to be lifelong learners and to tap into our own growth mindset so that we can model that for our students. And for those of you that are here, I applaud you because we're all trying to grow and learn together. Our passion is in our control. And sometimes maybe it feels like our personal flame is starting to wane and starts, maybe sometimes you feel like your candle's burning on both ends, right? And what I want to share is that if you can invest time for yourself to reconnect to your own passion, make sure that you listen to music that fuels you and fills you up, and to find those things that ignite your passion. We're in control of our caring, our compassion for others. We're in control of what we choose to focus on. We're in control of our preparation, of our classroom, right? And maybe preparation means getting the classroom set up, but also preparing for every day and for every class and every lesson, right? And in our classroom, that's our sphere of influence. There might be all these different things happening outside of our classroom, but while we get to teach our students, while we get to be and collaborate with our students, that's our time. And that's a moment where we're in control. We're in control of the music we teach, and we can make conscious decisions on what repertoire we're going to program and make decisions to broaden and include music from a variety of cultures and a variety of styles, and expose ourselves and our students to repertoire that might be out of our comfort zone. Yes, the repertoire. Our body language is another thing that we are completely in control of. And our body language communicates so much, doesn't it? Right? Our open posture or closed off posture, right? Our body language is often mirrored with mirror neurons and reflected by our students. So the energy we bring into the classroom is in our control. Our verbal language, I always share that's so important for us as teachers to use what I call uniting language, to strive to use words rather than I, me, to focus on words like we are in this together, like us, let's do this, join us together. And the more we can use words that embrace community, we start to create that culture of connection purely through the words we use. And language is powerful. Using the word yet, we're not there yet. It's such a hopeful word, right? It says that we're improving, we're making progress. I believe in you, but we're not there yet. Another powerful word to put into your vocabulary is the word get, right? We get to do this. And I'll tell you what, I've been, in the field working with all sorts of students the past few weeks, just traveling to different schools. And I've never seen students be more grateful to get to come back and make music in person, even though they're masked. They really feel the sense that we get to do it this year. They're excited. Our written language is in our control. Our listening, the way we listen, to fully listen. And maybe this year we want to set an intention to listen more deeply, to turn away from our computer and emails when a student comes into our office and turn and give them our full attention, and so that our heart faces them and we're fully invested. Our lesson planning is in our control. Our score study is in our control. Our conducting is in our control, right? The culture we create is in our control. We often feel that it's not, but as we'll share today, there's so many things that we can intentionally do to create the culture that we want for our classroom, an atmosphere and environment by design. How we teach is in our control, and how we respond is in our control. When we can take back that feeling of control in our lives, we can raise our level of autonomy, empowerment, freedom, and leadership, and lessen the stress and anxiety that accompanies a sense of lack of control. And not to diminish the things that are out of our control, but I want to elevate so that we focus on what we can make a difference in. So folks, it's time to reclaim your upbeat. And while we're all together, let's just go ahead and breathe an upbeat, inhale on an upbeat, and then conduct a downbeat together. And we'll sing this note, da. And what I want you to do is feel that energy on the upbeat, and notice how the energy that you give the upbeat will be delivered on the downbeat. Here we go. Ready? Da. What we've learned is that as we change our upbeat, right? We can do a soft upbeat followed by a soft downbeat, or a marcato upbeat followed by a marcato downbeat. We can change our upbeat, and that changes the downbeat. We feel the upbeat ahead of time. In fact, as conductors, as musicians, we hear the music in our mind before it happens. Just like as human beings, our thoughts precede our actions. See, our thoughts are to actions as our upbeat is to the downbeat. And the exciting thing is when we realize that we can choose our upbeat, the attitude that we bring to every moment and every day, it takes us to a whole new level. Our thoughts are the upbeat to our actions. Our attitude is our upbeat to any situation. And we choose our thoughts and our attitude. And this has never been more important than it is today for us as music educators, that even though there's so much outside of our classroom, right? Outside of, in the periphery of things going on that are out of our control, our students, our classroom, us, what we bring to the table, what we broadcast matters, and we can choose to bring our best every day. Just wanted to share this beautiful quote from Waldo Emerson to highlight this idea of our thoughts precede our actions. Our upbeat leads to the downbeat, and we choose our upbeat. Waldo Emerson said, "The ancestor to every action is a thought." And that's why today's session, we're focusing on intention. Intention is a powerful word that actually gives us power in the moment and for the day. When we set our intention, we are filled with the sense of anticipation. We decide what's important to us. What are we going to focus on? What do we want to achieve? Where do we want to grow? And in our mind, we visualize it happening ahead of time. We see it, we feel it, and we believe that it can happen. And I want today's session to be very personal for you and thoughtful. And so if you want to be just scribbling notes as we're going through, so that you can think about your own intention for the school year. So what are your hopes and dreams for this year? What are your hopes and dreams for this year? And think about, what did you learn from last year? And what do you want to do differently? What do you want to continue to do the same? In what ways do you want to make this year extra special? What have you learned from the last year that you can bring to this year to ignite your passion and inspire your students? See, feel, believe. See, it turns out that inside, if we can imagine a future and actually feel the feelings as if it's happening. For example, let's think of a concert. Maybe we'll have a fall or a winter concert. What are those emotions and feelings that you want for yourself and for your students during and at the conclusion of the concert? This also has to do with begin with the end in mind, doesn't it? And there's no better time than at the beginning to set your intention. Goals are like intentions, but goals are, very specific. Intention can be something like, I am going to bring my greatest energy to every rehearsal. Tomorrow, I'm going to make kindness more important in my classroom. This week, I'm going to strive to get to know my students on a deeper level. What is it for you? And set your intention. It might be something as simple as, I was thinking today, I want to be better at responding to important emails more quickly. I just want to get better at my communication in different ways. So I was thinking about that today. And what is it for you? An intention for me is to create a positive and compassionate culture by design. And today's webinar, we're going to focus on using 3 important areas that are in our purview, that are in our control, that we can choose to bring, and that will, in fact, impact our culture in a positive way. The first one is mindfulness, and we're going to dig into that. Secondly, social emotional learning, making that central to our music classrooms. And finally, student voice and student empowerment. So let's talk about mindfulness. Well, I always think that mindfulness is important to begin with ourselves. Mindfulness is about a state of awareness, being present in the moment, and being aware of our thoughts, our space, and have a heightened sense of awareness with all of our senses. And mindfulness is often associated with meditation. And meditation, is wonderful. I love to meditate every morning and just sit and focus on my inhale and my exhale. And if I notice some thoughts in my mind, which of course I do my best to just acknowledge them. And sometimes I get lost in the thought, and then I'll return my mind to the breath. And so the process of meditation is often focus on your breath. You get lost in your thoughts. You bring yourself back to your breath. You get lost in your thoughts. You bring yourself back to your breath. The important thing is to be non-judgmental. So mindfulness is about a non-judgmental awareness. And this idea of being fully present in the moment truly aligns with the idea of being in the spirit of get, right? That we get to be here, to treasure every moment. And we can create mindfulness in our own life, in other activities besides our meditation, mindful walking, mindful eating, mindfully playing our instruments, being more present as a conductor, listening to each other more deeply, being mindful around our colleagues and aware of their emotions and fully present and empathetic when they're speaking. It's about awareness and how can we heighten awareness of musical sound, musical texture, the feeling of the instruments, or inquire that the feeling of the voice and the whole body, heightening awareness. being in the present moment. So often in our lives, we are lost in the past, and we think about the past, and oftentimes that the past brings up feelings of guilt or shame. And often we're in the future and we're worrying about something that hasn't happened yet, that is out of our control. But the magic happens, doesn't it, in the present? And this is where we want to live as teachers and as music educators and with our students. And when we are in the present, we find that our senses are more fully attuned and that we can maximize our time together. So mindfulness also has to do with getting more in touch with our emotions and acknowledging that we are going to feel the full range of emotions, and so are our students. And it's not that there's good and bad emotions, but there are emotions that we feel better at, right? And that our mind functions at a higher level, right? And wouldn't you all agree that when we're in a positive state, that we're more creative, we're solution finders. And when we feel good, when we feel joy, when we feel happiness, it turns out it ignites our prefrontal cortex and neocortex, which is fabulous because that allows us to see a much broader horizon of possibilities. When we are feeling anxious or stressed or angry, our amygdala takes over and really narrows in our focus, and we're not able to see the possibilities and options. Also, when we're in a positive state, we're flooded with all sorts of good chemicals like oxytocin and dopamine and endorphins and serotonin. That's wonderful. But when we are upset or we're stressed, it's not always easy to just change our feelings or our students' feelings at will. But it turns out that one of the ways we can take back control, where we can reclaim our upbeat, is through the process of how we breathe, which is right up our alley as musicians. It's fantastic. Andrew Weil, doctor, holistic doctor, and prolific author, holistic medicine doctor, shared, "It is much easier to regulate the breath than to will negative moods to end." See, it turns out when we are stressed, our breathing is high, shallow, and irregular. But when we're in a positive frame of mind, relaxed, joyful, centered, grounded, our breathing is diaphragmatic breathing. It's low breathing. It's the type of breathing we want our musicians to breathe with, right? So how can we tap into that? Well, if we can, rather than changing our emotions at will, we can change our breathing. So let's experiment with some different types of breaths that we can use with our students. Let's take a moment to just breathe in gratitude. I'm filled with gratitude for you, for being here, for attending this session, for your passion for lifelong learning and growth, and to bring your best for your students on a daily basis. And we're just going to breathe in gratitude for 4 counts, and then we're just going to exhale any toxicity we want to get rid of for 8 counts. So in your nose for 4, out your mouth for 8. Here we go. In and out. And relax. We can literally create cultures of gratitude. We can create cultures of gratitude in our classrooms by leading by example. Sharing gratitude on a daily basis, beginning rehearsal, sharing appreciation for your students, sharing appreciation for the weather, sharing appreciation for the building, sharing appreciation for the fact that we get to come together, whether that's in person or virtually, that we still have an opportunity to get together. And when we begin with gratitude, it creates a ripple effect in our classroom where other students start to naturally share what they're grateful for. And we can ask our students what they're grateful for as well. And really our classroom will start to shimmer. And gratitude is one of those magic potions, magic elixirs that when you focus on gratitude, it shifts our mindset from stress and anxiety and frustration to the positive realm. And so the more gratitude we can bring into our classroom, the better everyone will feel. And it literally will impact the sound in a positive way as well. How magical is that? So I put together a slide to share a variety of mindful breathing techniques you can use in your classroom right away. The first one is fantastic. It's called the focus breath. And in addition to focusing your students almost immediately, you'll notice another secondary impact, which is that you can't talk when you're breathing through your nose. And so for years, I've used the focus breath, not only to center and focus students, but also as an alternative to asking students to stop talking. So let's try it together. In your nose for 4, out your nose for 4. And in and out. I recommend doing these breaths 3 or 4 times. The next one is a powerful breath to release your own stress. Have you ever been worked up in between classes and you just, center yourself? The serenity breath, known as the 4-7-8 breath, will help you do just that. Let's try that together. In and hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and out. The next breath is the triangle breath. This is a phenomenal breath to share with your students, and just ask them, say, hey, how many of you have trouble sleeping at night? And I bet almost every single student, so many students have trouble getting to sleep, or they wake up in the middle of the night and they can't get back to sleep. The triangle breath is great for helping kind of put people back to sleep. We'll try it once. In, 2, 3, hold, 2, 3, out. The next breath, the box breath, was created by the Navy SEALs, and they use it in training and in the field. And it's just really, really powerful for us to center ourselves. The renew release breath is what we started our session with today. And all of these can also be used as a form of meditation if you like. But I use them in the classroom. I use them for myself. My students find great value in these for themselves as well. The gratitude breath is what we just did on the prior slide. I wanted to share what I call gratitude breath 2.0 to take it to an even higher level. This one is where you breathe in something you're grateful for 4 counts, and then you exhale out whatever you want to give to the world. I put peace here, but it could be joy, love, caring, compassion. What do you want to give, right? And it might be, what do you want to give to the space you're in? Or it could be, what do you want to send out to the world? Let's try it together. Here we go. In and exhale. And release. And if you want to take a screenshot of this, go for it. And the more we can use diaphragmatic, mindful breathing for centering and grounding ourselves and our students, the better for everyone. All right. Cool. Yes. And if you do have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. That's great. Okay. So I want to talk a little bit more about the impact of our breath and our heart. So when we inhale, it actually increases our heart rate. When we exhale, it decreases our heart rate. And so if you really want to work on kind of slowing your heart rate down as a teacher, one of the ways to do that is to make your exhale longer than your inhale. Secondly, to get a really full, deep breath and to breathe in our most optimal, healthy way, it turns out that breathing through our nose is the optimal way to breathe. So just try it and feel that expansion down low, right? And you can teach this to your students. Of course, we don't want to play our band instruments of breathing in through our nose. But in life, breathing through your nose can really relax you. And the ideal rate to slow your heart rate down and center and ground yourself is in for 4, out for 6, breathing through your nose. If you can't breathe through your nose that well. Just keep your lips lightly closed and breathe out through pursed lips. So I'm sharing a lot about breathing and mindfulness because it can make a profound difference musically and in how everybody feels. It even turns out that when we are mindful about our breath, our listening goes up, and we're much more present with our students. We're also able to build much more trusting communities when we set our intention to breathe deeply as music teachers. Hey, let's get real. How many of you get lots of emails as a teacher and find yourself on your phone or your computer or texting, right? So many of us, right? Well, the research now shows that on average, 80% of people, when they're on their phone, notice how my head kind of goes down like this, or texting, 80% of us either stop breathing altogether or we start breathing up in our chest, which chest breathing makes you super stressed out just by its nature. It actually ignites the sympathetic nervous system, which creates more stress hormones. When we breathe deeply, it literally stimulates the vagus nerve, which is awesome, which communicates with the parasympathetic nervous system, which causes us to be calm, centered, and grounded. So if your intention for this year is to be more present, more fully aware, centered, grounded, to be all in with your students, just the time we've spent today on breathing can be the game changer for you. I wanted to share an example of a group in Indiana this summer with their marching band. They've been using Qigong, which is an element of mindfulness, but just kind of a beautiful way to see how mindfulness can play a role in music. So when we breathe together as an ensemble, we know this as music teachers, we often say this: breathe together, come in together, right? Right. But also when we breathe together as an ensemble, we listen to each other more deeply and we connect together, which is so powerful. So ask yourself, how can you intentionally integrate mindfulness into your classroom to heighten awareness, to center and ground your students, so that you can use the power of the breath and focus on gratitude. And visualization is also an element of mindfulness that you can use to see, to feel, to believe, to begin with the end in mind, and to lean in to our emotions, which is a perfect segue into how mindfulness and social emotional learning fit hand in glove, just perfectly together. Social emotional learning, I wanted to begin with just the definition of how SEL looks in our classrooms. And as you look at this definition, it's a school where children and adults understand and manage emotions, set and achieve positive goals, feel and show empathy for others, establish and maintain positive relationships, and make responsible decisions. As you look at that, how does that come into your classroom? I think music is poised perfectly to be the role model for how SEL is important. Certainly, creating connection and belonging in our music classrooms matters. And as human beings, we are hardwired for love, connection, and belonging. And our job as music teachers is that we get to create the space where we come together and we make music together, and we're fully vulnerable and we're sharing our emotions with each other. We get to create caring, compassionate communities, don't we? But how does that happen? Well, it turns out that we lead by example. If SEL is important to us, we make it important to our students. That's the essence of it, right? And SEL really begins with how we treat ourselves, doesn't it? How we treat ourselves affects how we treat others. I think oftentimes we get into the notes and the rhythms and stuff, and we forget about the inspiration behind the music, right? In our classrooms, we want to create a place where we openly share our value for our students. So maybe one of your intentions this year is to be more boisterous, more communicative, that every student matters. Every student makes a difference. Every student has value. What I'd like to share is what I call the principle of value. And the principle of value to me is that when we share that we truly value someone else, that elevates their value and actually ends up elevating our own value. In the giving, there's also the receiving. And we can teach this to our students and create cultures where sharing positives with each other is encouraged and part of the process. We want to create classrooms that are just overflowing with what I call the good stuff, to create more of the good stuff. Dopamine. Dopamine is created when we set goals and we start to make achievements, like small stepping stones towards the goal. It's not necessarily the achievement of the final product. It's about making progress, right? Endorphins are created when we, particularly if we have movement in our music classrooms. Oxytocin is created through connection, belonging, community, exchange of positive energy, value. That's oxytocin. And serotonin is created when we feel pride in what we're doing. And we can create that culture by letting students know how proud we are of them. There's a wonderful book I spent a lot of time looking at lately. It's called Permission to Feel by Mark Brackett. And I want to share a quote from the book, which I think is so relevant to us as music teachers. When kids and adults are given permission to feel all emotions and learn how to manage them, it opens doors to collaboration, relationship building, improved decision-making and performance, and greater well-being. Almost all the essential ingredients for success arise from emotion skills. What we've learned is that leaning into all emotions is essential for us to thrive as human beings. When we suppress emotions, we're not able to fully encompass what it truly means to be human. And through music, we have the opportunity to embrace all emotions. And we always talk about as musicians to play with emotions, right? Or to play with feeling. And I think it's great to identify the difference, right? Emotions arise from an internal or external stimulus, right? But feelings is our response to the emotion. And I think even that's interesting that we can choose our feelings based on our response to emotion. And then a mood is longer lasting. And think about how emotion, feeling, and mood can be identified within music itself and can become a conversation. I want to set an intention to teach music with emotion and feeling, to be vulnerable with our students, right? To open up our heart channel, to share our own stories. And how do we connect to the music, but also to ask our students how they connect to the music. What emotions or feelings do they see and hear within the music? And why? And how can they play the music with greater emotion? Involve them in the process and give them the voice in that exchange. It turns out that when we bring emotion into learning and it makes learning more meaningful, that's when learning sticks. So we teach with emotion, not just because it's within the music and that's who we are as musicians, but when we teach with and all in with emotions, it will lead to inspiring our students. It will help us to teach with purpose, to motivate, to instill meaning, to fully engage, to heighten learning and memory, and to connect on a deeper level. So perhaps this year, one of your intentions is to teach with deeper emotion. So what can you do to intentionally create a positive culture of care, compassion, and community in your classroom? Pause to think about that for a moment for yourself. And lastly, I want to share some ideas on the importance of giving our students voice and empowering them. Many teachers felt that while we were teaching virtually, there was more opportunities to give voice and choice to our students. And I think that's wonderful. When students are empowered and given voice, they become much more invested in the process. And part of empowering students could be to give them leadership responsibilities. And I love to share that leadership is inspiring and encouraging others to achieve their full potential. It's not about what leadership can do for you. It's about how you can serve others through leadership, isn't it? And you don't need a title to be a leader, right? You can find people to encourage, to support, to inspire, to lift. How can you help others? That's what it truly means to be a leader. I share with students that how we lead others is a reflection of how we lead ourselves, and encourage your students to be kind to themselves, to be compassionate to themselves, and to forgive themselves. And through that process, they'll have more to give to other students as well. I encourage you to create a vision and goals with your students. Today, we're spending time thinking about you and your process and your intention and possibly a vision for the school year for you. There's nothing more powerful than to have this conversation with your students and involve them in the process. Every day is an opportunity to set daily intentions with your students. What's important to you? What would you like to get better at today? And make the learning process something that they are a part of rather than just reacting to. So make a wish. Remember that feeling you had when you blew out candles on a cake when you were a kid? Maybe you still do. I know I still do. Blowing out a cake with a lot more candles. That wish that anything is possible. It's the beginning of the year. I want you to set your intention and dream big. Go for it. There's so much that's in your control. See a vision for the future that you can make, that you can create. You can create a positive and compassionate culture by design. You can bring mindfulness, SCL, and empowerment of students into your music rooms this year. And you can make a profound, positive difference in the world. You truly are, you are a guiding light. You're a guiding light in the darkness. And you truly light the way. You inspire the mind, heart, and soul of your students. I want to thank everybody for being here today. It's been a true honor to spend some time with you and setting our intentions together. My intention for you is that you have the most extraordinary time lifting, developing, sharing, collaborating, honoring, and caring for all of your students this school year. If you'd like to reach out to me, you can reach me through my website, upbeatglobal.com, email matthew@upbeatglobal.com. Love to have you join our various Facebook groups, Upbeat Leaders or Mindfulness for the Music Educators. And can be found on Instagram at upbeat.global or Facebook, Upbeat Global as well. So thank you all. And if you have any questions, I will be hanging out. And if not, It's been a true pleasure spending time with you today. And thank you to Make Music, Smart Music, and Jennifer Paisley behind the scenes for running the show. I look forward to the next time all of our paths cross together.
Great. Well, this is Jennifer, and I just want to thank you so much for such an inspiring session, and to everyone who's joined us. I am going to drop a link for our certificate of attendance in the chat. This is only available for those of us who have joined us live. And in addition, I do have a survey if you have a few minutes, and we'd love to hear your feedback on today's session, and also any ideas you may have for future webinars that you'd like to see us present. And if you do have any questions, we do have a few more minutes, so please drop those in the chat or the Q&A. We'll leave it open for just a couple more seconds.
I'll just say thank you to the attendees here. It's great to see you, and I know we're from all over the world. I see Chris here from Canada, and it's really an honor that you joined us. And we have Eric from Indiana, and wow, and Trisha from, I think, all the way from Australia. So yes, okay, cool. So this is very much global today, and what a special treat. So if anybody wants to, chat about anything more in detail, I'm here for you. But thank you all so much on different time zones to come join us and spend some time. I know we're all in this together, and I know that you are all brilliant, creative folks, and your students are blessed to have you as their teacher.
All right, well, I think that's it. Thank you so much again. What an inspirational presentation. And this will be recorded, and we will share that out in a couple of days. And thank you again for everyone for joining us. Hope you have a great day.
Thank you.